Hello, and welcome to Wine with Wita, the podcast that is dedicated to engaging with health professionals and caregivers in meaningful discussions. I'm your host, Rita Shamoon, or as my clients call me, Wita. I'm a pediatric speech pathologist, and I am so excited to have you here. Each week, we deep dive into connecting you with caregivers and healthcare professionals, sharing their insights, stories, and key takeaways to help you with your child's diagnosis and your journey. Whether you are a parent, healthcare professional, a lifetime learner, or simply a wine enthusiast, you're in the right place. So let's sit back and relax and enjoy today's episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Wine with Wita. This is episode number 2 as we continue with the initiative with Swim Coaches and Teachers Australia, where we celebrate neurodiversity, women, and leveling on the deck. And today I am graced with the beautiful Natalie Clarke, who is an experienced swimming teacher and the founder of Swim for All. Natalie, welcome to Wine with Wita.
Hi, Rita. Lovely to meet you.
Lovely to finally meet you. So I have heard wonderful things about you. I just want to continue talking about your biography. You're a highly experienced swimming teacher and the founder for Swim for All, a swimming school with the philosophy that everyone is welcome, no matter what ability or disability they may have, and the aim of helping all children or all students reach their swimming potential. Can I just say, wow. Thank you for building a platform for all children because swimming is a life skill.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure.
I love it. So, Natalie, can you please tell me or tell the listeners who you are and what was your driving passion or force to building Swim for All?
I grew up as a swimmer and loved swimming, loved competing, and it's quite a natural progression for a swimmer to then want to go into swim teaching, which I did for many years. And then I really had a drive to have my own swim school so I could just have the best swim school possible and teach in the best way, all of those kind of things. And I was progressing along that path nicely. When I had children, my first child was diagnosed on the autism spectrum, and it became very apparent in our support group that there was nowhere where these children could learn to swim in a nurturing and understanding environment. So just with these handful of kids that were in the support group, I started a swim school to help these guys learn to swim, and that quickly grew to hundreds of swimmers from the small facility that we hired in Marambina. And then I went on later to purchase the Werribee Swim Centre, which was a mainstream swim school, and add our Swim for All disability program to that swim school. So that's how it kind of came about.
Wow. And can I ask, with Swim for All, how many teaching staff do you have?
So we've got 25 teachers and a few reception staff and a fabulous manager on board now. So it's pretty much grown to capacity, which is fantastic and very rewarding.
Yeah. In the news, you would have heard the rising rates of children with autism drowning. And we've come to realize there's reasons to that, purely because they are drawn to the water. They might be experiencing sensory overload, as well as not understanding understanding safety first. Do you find it's so important to teach our children the importance of safety first, or alongside teaching them the strokes in swimming?
Absolutely. Like our primary focus would be safety first, and then as children get better at swimming, we'll progress into learning swimming strokes. But like as an example, probably most of our children on the autism spectrum, when they arrive at the pool, they want to jump in straight away. So it's a collaboration with the parents to teach them that they have to wait. They have to wait for their teacher. And while we try to very much make the lesson, especially our individual lessons, cater to the child's needs and interests, we do have set rules that they need to follow, and they're primarily for their safety. So that first rule will be that they're not allowed to enter until the teacher is ready. So that's a as I said, a collaboration with the parent to chat to them and say, don't let your kid run in, even if the other child has got out, wait for the teacher to say, yes, you can come join me in your lesson now. And then as an end of the lesson, we always incorporate jumping in because they love it. But part of that is then we get to teach them to swim back. So they're allowed to jump in and given the cue to jump. So it's always, 1, 2, 3, go Johnny, or whatever their name is. And then they're allowed to jump. And then when they're very new and they can't swim yet and they don't have those skills, we'll assist them back to the side. So they're always learning to go back to the side and then how to get out. And then they'll practice getting out in the shallow end, in the deep end, where there's a ledge, where there isn't a ledge, so that they're learning that skill no matter where they are. So if they fall into a creek, they know to get to the side and clamber out. So we might, have them jumping on a mat early on, and then they have to clamber along that to get out. So that's if they don't have a lot of skills yet. And then as they get more skilled, they're jumping into deeper water. And as they develop their dog paddle technique, when they jump, we'll pull them a little bit away from the side. So they'll start swimming up to 5 meters before they get out. That way, wherever they go, because they will go to places where they jump in. I know my son, when he was only 3 and we went to camping for the first time at Inverloch, he ran down into the water fully dressed, boots, jacket, the works. And because he'd been brought up in the water, he was able to get back. But with all of that gear on, even with me being, a pretty proactive mum, he still got away, he still got in the water, and he was able to get himself out. So that's like a paramount skill that we get all of our teachers to all the kids first. And like I said, most of the kids that want to jump in, it's not a hard skill to teach because they want to jump in. So they understand they get another jump if they. So they're happy to get back. So they can. So yeah.
I love how you focus on the concept of generalization of the skill of swimming in a pool, but like what you said, teaching them to get to the edge of the creek, because swimming is a skill no matter what water element you are in. Is that your driving force to teach children to swim not only in a pool, but to transfer the skill or generalize the skill to other environments too?
Yeah, absolutely. And like with we had a child who was a very high functioning boy, and he said, "Oh, I can walk now. I don't need to learn how to swim anymore. I'm good." And they're very pragmatic kids on the spectrum. So he was right. He doesn't need to learn to swim in that particular pool anymore. And he was very keen to go boating with his family. And I'm like, well, if you fall off a boat, what are you going to do? So you need that skill. So we were able to rationalise with him the need for him to continue lessons, because even though he could stand up in the pool he was in, he still needed to learn that skill. But we do find the majority of drownings are in pools. So it's just teaching children, like they can all get out of our pool because we've done it over and over again. But can they get out of the different end? Can they get out when they're on a slippery mat? It's just changing those things so they know, what skills do I need to get out of this situation? And they've done it before. So they don't panic because they know, we've done that before.
Yeah. You mentioned
Even
earlier
with,
sorry, continue.
oh no, I was just going to say, with our very little ones that are scared of the deep, we teach them to monkey walk down to a shallower bit. So if they fall into a strange pool, they just need to get to the side and hold on, and then they can work their way to a shallow area where they can get out.
Yeah.
Sorry,
You mentioned earlier no, that's okay. That's all right. We're just very keen to talk, I can tell. You mentioned earlier about the importance of collaborating with parents. Now, I'm on the other end where I'm teaching children how to communicate, build their understanding skills, build their communication skills. But there is so much fear with parents teaching their children how to swim, because children that are autistic have a high rate of eloping, high rate of wandering off. How do you support parents to instill the belief that swimming firstly is important, but also they need to give it a go?
Yeah, well, pretty much, if they've come to us, they're already of that understanding
They're
that
already
this is
there.
an important life skill. But yeah, especially for the kids who want to jump in, I definitely instill in the parents, those kids, they have to learn. If the child is timid and scared, there's not a great rush. They're not going to run in. But that's probably a very small percentage of kids on the spectrum that are scared to get in. Most of them are just gung-ho and go for it. So, yeah, pretty much the parents, they've come to us, they have that understanding. It's we spoke briefly before about the difference between, the private and the group classes.
Yeah.
There's some people there, they want their children to be in a normal group class, or they don't have the finances for a private class. We keep our private classes, that's only roughly double a group class. So I would be encouraging them to do a shorter amount, even if they only do half of the year instead of a whole year, and we do one-on-one classes to get that child to a place where they're comfortable, secure and safe. And then we have the option at Swim for Werribee, we have 3 pools, a lot of different classes, and we have the option for the children to then transfer into a mainstream class if they're ready, or there's a financial need for them to move into that sphere. But at least they've had the chance to get ready, get comfortable and get some confidence. Once they know they've got some skills, they can then cope with other people in the class, or moving on to a skill before they feel like they've finished the last thing, or moving on to a skill that they don't particularly want to do. So, giving them that training and that familiarity and the confidence is an important thing to teach our families. There's sometimes at our Werribee Centre, at our Murrumbeena Centre, we only run private classes, but at Werribee they'll just pop the kid into a group class and hope for the best, because our teachers are all trained. However, if we don't know what the child's challenges are, and if the child's given, tasks that they're not familiar with, or they, have to wait their turn or something like that, it's not a positive experience. So I think it's important to educate the parents to make it a positive experience to start with, and ease the child into the new environment and learning new skills.
You mentioned the word familiarity and getting the child used to the centre. What can you encourage parents to do, or even in your centre? Should they arrive to the centre earlier, have a few sessions just exploring the premises before they start actually attending the swimming lessons?
Yeah, I think it's important for the child and parent to know what they're getting into. So yeah, let the child come and visit, let them have a look around. I'll ask the parent when they enrol a little bit about their child. If they have, a 3-year-old that will run and jump in immediately, I'm not going to encourage them to get there half an hour early, because then that's half an hour of stress for mother and child. Child doesn't get what they want, parent has to hold a child that may well tantrum within half an hour because they're not getting their needs met. But if it's a timid child, 100% be there very early, have a look around, get comfortable, know where the change rooms are. If they're timid, I'd have the parent prepare them, have their bathers and everything on. So when they get there, they're like, oh, I'm not putting them on. No, if I put them on, I have to get in. Like, do all the hard bits before you come. So it's just preparing the child. And look, we do find most people that are bringing a child with additional needs, they know this stuff. They've done a whole lot of different activities.
Interventions,
what are their child's needs and what can we do together to prepare them so it's a positive experience? Someone, that's not very verbal, we might do a storybook. So they've got, they know what the place looks like, they know what's expected, they know what's going to happen. And I also say to the parents, for the first session, just let them know that they're going to go and look at a new place and meet a new teacher and have some fun. They can show the teacher what they already know how to do. They can just sit on the side. Like most kids, I'll say, look, if you don't want to get in, just sit on the side and talk to the teacher. You don't need to do a lesson for that. And as soon as you take away that pressure, they end up having a lesson. But if you're like, you have to get in, we're paying for this, then it puts stress on the child that's not productive.
I'm interested, how do you accommodate the swimming lessons for children with complex needs? And when I say complex, children that are non-speaking, also children that might, have physical difficulties and might not be able to walk. How do you accommodate their needs so they can also learn the skill to swim? Do you have any examples?
Yeah. So, again, it depends on it depends on the needs of the child. So we'll discuss that with the parent. For example, we have one boy who has incontinent issues. He has the very last class of the day. So should he have an accident, we can then deal with the situation without impacting the swim program. Having said that, hasn't had an accident since I think the first or second session. So he's still at the end just in case, but that's going really well. For children, we had some twins that started with us. They were very big boys and they were very aggressive. Again, we put them at the end with no one else left in the pool. So they would throw things, scream out, and that's frightening for others. But one of those twins is now doing very well in Special Olympics. So they really? They're amazing. They had super amazing parents. So the dad would be in the water to make sure the teacher didn't get hurt, and the mum would walk around the side, corralling the kids into the water if they got out and tried to run. So it was just, they've gone from something so difficult to huge success. So they've done really well. So it's just putting the right people in the right time. If the child is really timid, I'd be looking for a quiet time. Most parents want directly after school or early on a Saturday morning, and I'll say, look, that's our busiest time at Werribee. That's when all our mainstream classes are on, and it's not a good time to start. It's definitely a time that these kids can transition to when they're comfortable. When they're comfortable in the place, when they know the routine, when they know they can't, bite, yell, hit people, scream out, swear. We've got quite a few that are a bit verbal with their swearing. That can't happen when there's little kids around. But once they're comfortable, those negative behaviours tend to, cease. And then they can come at a different time that's a little bit more family friendly. But we'll start them off in a time where they're comfortable. And also, like I say at Murrumbina, it's all private classes. So it's a very supportive environment for the parents. And it doesn't really matter when the kids are coming as far as the parents feeling okay because they're well supported. In Werribee, we have our mainstream classes pretty much in the busy periods, and then we've got our all abilities either before or after, or obviously our younger ones can come during the day there. But like on a Saturday, for instance, we start classes at 8 o'clock, and from 12-ish onwards, we have predominantly private classes. The centre's very quiet, and it's just a more relaxed environment.
Yeah. You've really demonstrated the idea of you cannot, when all these children in their life always hear you cannot, but you've really demonstrated that a child can do despite all the challenges that they face, like those two twin boys that you just described beautifully, that I'm assuming their whole life they've been heard, you cannot because of your behavior, you cannot because of how disruptive you are. And you've demonstrated to these kids that you can, and now one's gone to the Special Olympics, which is such a beautiful story. And as a parent, we want to hear those success stories because there's so much fear that parents hold, especially with swimming or entering a new environment. Do you have any other success stories that you would be happy to share so parents can see there is joy with swimming despite the challenges? Is that the best one you've had?
I'll give you three little ones. So one of it, like I said, we started off because my son was on the autism spectrum. We started helping children with autism, and that's grown to help people with all sorts of disabilities now. Cerebral palsy is a fantastic special need to develop in the water. We've had a couple of children, one child who wasn't able to walk. She just didn't really have the strength to learn the skills on land, but she was able to learn to walk in the water, and then those skills were transferred onto land. So that was an eye-opener for me. So I'm like, we need more people with cerebral palsy to experience this so they can then learn skills in an environment that supports them. If they fall in the water when they're trying to walk, we're just there to hold them up and nothing bad happens to them, like them getting bruised and hurt on land. We had another family who brought their autistic boy to swim with us because they'd heard that we taught children with autism, and they wheeled in their other son in a wheelchair. And I said, well, why isn't that one having a lesson? And they're like, oh, we thought you only did children with autism. And their child had cerebral palsy, an intellectual disability, and haemophilia. So they were pretty scared to do anything with him because if his body hits sides, he can bleed internally. But we were able to slide him gently into the pool, and it took quite some time, but the parents were very happy to have that, for him to have that experience in the water. He just smiled from ear to ear when he was in the water because he was free. You know, he wasn't held, he wasn't in a wheelchair. And he learnt to swim across the pool. It was only a 5-metre pool that we were using, but he was able, with just one arm and a little bit of assistance from one leg, paddle himself across the pool. And just the sense of achievement for him and the joy for his parents. Like, his parents can just sit there for half an hour and watch him paddle around, and they didn't have to do anything. They could just enjoy it. So, they're our cerebral palsy special moments. Then we have, a couple of autism and intellectual disability special moments. One parent contacted me just recently to thank me for helping his son learn to swim. He's now an Australian triathlete champion. And he's gone on to win events not only in for catering to people with a disability, but he's won mainstream events now as well. He's got that good. So he's had
where my head's going? He can come on Wine with Wita.
Oh, he totally would. His name is Cameron Marshall. You can follow him.
Let's connect with some contacts after.
Yeah. He's just, the whole family, again, it's a family that had really supported him, and then he's gone on to get so much support along the way from different organisations. Every time he posts, there's a list of all the organisations that have helped him along his way. So he's amazing. And then I'll share one more little story. I hope it doesn't make me cry. I get emotional whenever I tell this one. We had, so I started developing our coaches through our squad program. So we ran a squad program, and all of our senior swimmers would go on and then become swim teachers with me. So they'd met a lot of the swimmers along the way, and of course they had fabulous swimming skills, and we had a great relationship. So the swim school evolved through that way. And we had a couple of boys that had private lessons with us and then went on to join the squad. So they got good enough to swim squad sessions, and we would enter a winter interclub team every year. And one particular year our junior team had more special ability people in it than typically developing, which was amazing. And one boy was too old to be in the junior team. And so the senior said, he can come on our team. And it was the last race of the evening. It was a 4x100 metre relay. And the team had let this boy have the glory spot, the last leg of the relay. And when this boy dived in, they were a whole lap ahead of the rest of the field. And the whole field overtook him. And so he touched last, and he climbed out of the water, and he got a standing ovation from the crowd. He had quite an unusual swimming style, so it was quite apparent that he had additional needs. Anyway, he gets out of the water, he got a standing ovation from the crowd. And this boy is so shy. He never talks to anyone. He doesn't like physical contact. And he ran along the stands, high-fiving all of the audience like he'd won an Olympic gold. And it was so special that our team of just typically developing teenagers had put inclusivity of this child above the win for them. And we didn't go home with the pennant, but we went home with this amazing memory. So there's a few stories, but mostly teaching these kids, the reward is just in them learning to be safe and learning to have a skill. Like, once they master this skill, it gives them the confidence to try other harder things. Like, the water is so accessible for everyone, and anyone with whatever ability or disability can learn to move through the water. So it just can become an environment that breeds success, that then goes on to, provide that success in other areas for these kids.
I can see the joy and how much you light up, Natalie, every time you talk about your job. But it's not even a job, is it? It's your way of living. And the
Yeah,
way you talk about your success stories, I can just feel the love through the camera. And you are just really reinforcing that no child should be defined by their disability, but more recognized by their ability. And you wholeheartedly teach these kids that they can be seen through their ability just through swimming. What an honor to hold that for so many children, Natalie. So from me to you, thank you for creating this platform for young children and who are becoming successful adults. And I'm sure they didn't even anticipate that they would be successful in that way in their life, and the parents as well.
yeah. Well, we're very fortunate that some of our early swimmers are now teachers in our program.
Yeah.
So some of them have taken, like one young man trained for a whole year. You're required to do 20 hours of shadowing before you
Mm,
can become a swim teacher, and he did, you know, 48 weeks of it before we were
yeah.
happy to sign him off. Because if I'm going to sign someone off as a teacher, I'm saying you can go to any swim school and teach. So this young
Mm,
man was fantastic and still is fantastic teaching our special needs, but he had to be
mm,
able to control a class and focus
mm.
himself for half an hour. But he is probably our most outstanding teacher in our Murrumbina program where he started
Yeah.
now, because he's just embrace those skills. And like parents just say to me, oh, he just gets it. He just
Mm,
gets what my child needs. I'm like, well,
mm.
he's been there. So
Yeah.
yeah, so
Shared
yeah, there's a
experience.
few, yeah, so there's a few now that have come through our program that now work
Yeah.
within the program, which is, yeah, an amazing full circle story.
Yeah. I can only imagine how much training. Yes, you have your own lived experience through your son and being loving the water yourself, but I can just imagine a young swimming teacher, the amount of training that they would need and hands-on experience to become proficient in teaching children with special needs. What do you offer to support a young swimming teacher?
Yeah, so when teachers come to us, so at Werribee we might have people that come to us that don't necessarily have a interest in special needs, um,
Mm,
and like we will only give a teacher a child that they're comfortable to take. So,
mm,
but our younger teachers at Murrumbina, we only have, as I said, the private classes. So if they come to train there, it's with an expectation that they will be working with additional needs. Um,
mm.
so they do their swim course, and there's a few out there that they can go and do, and then they need to do, as we spoke before, a minimum of 20 hours
Yeah.
shadowing. Um, Unless someone comes from a swimming background, it will require a bit more than that. But
Mm,
I let them know. I pretty much let our teachers know. You let me know when you feel ready to take a class, and then we'll see
mm,
how you go,
mm.
and we'll watch you and help you. So they do their regular, like if they're going to teach regular mainstream classes, and then they do additional training in an area that is of interest to them. So in Werribee, you can choose to or not to do some training with our private class students. We find pretty much everybody does, because it's just super rewarding. It's
Mm.
great to see mainstream kids improve and do well and go to the next level and have their
Of
parents
course.
happy with their success. But like the first child that ever came and swam with me, who still does swim with me, yeah, she's in her 20s, makes me feel a bit old because she was 4 when she started. But the first time she swam across the pool, her mum stood on the chair screaming and yelling because she was so excited that she'd made it. She made it because
Yeah.
she wanted to get out and get an ice cream, because she got an ice cream at the end of the lesson. So she got an ice cream at the end of the lesson for the next 20 odd years. But that was her motivator. But yeah, so back to the teachers. So they can work with these kids, and
Mm,
they tend to find them so rewarding that they do want to pursue doing that. And we'll start our newer teachers, with, someone who's high functioning, maybe can
mm,
communicate their needs, and we help them write up a lesson plan for the
mm.
child so they've got steps to take, and help them talk to the parents, because talking to parents can be a bit daunting for young people. um, I know my daughter struggled with that part of it when she started teaching in our swim school. but now she's an occupational therapist that talks to parents all day.
That's awesome.
So for a young person that can be daunting, but then young people, they can often connect to a child better than someone my age now can, because I don't follow, what children are watching anymore, or
TikTok.
In-depthly know what they're, about their interests. I can fake it for a bit, but some of those high-functioning kids, I can't quite relate to their special interests, but the younger ones can. So it's just finding the right fit. Sometimes we'll have our parents saying, oh, I don't think it's gelling, or my child's now running rings around that teacher, they've got them all worked out, and then we might need to switch it up a bit. But generally, they form a bond with that teacher, and they can have the same teacher for years and years. And they're very disappointed if that particular teacher finishes their degree and moves on to real life. But
of course, because they've built such a great connection.
Yeah. Some of them do stay with us, and they all tend to be friends on Facebook and follow the progress of their little charges well into
It's like a family you've created, haven't you? It's like it's not only just a swim school, it's a family.
Yeah, it's really nice, after work you hear all the teachers talking, and they're talking about what that kid achieved or what happened with this one, rather than, what social event they might be going to. So it is a really rewarding and fun place to work.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier about the need to start off with private lessons. Now, I anticipate that comes at a higher rate of a cost. How can we support families because so they're not having such a financial burden on themselves?
Yeah.
What do you offer?
Yeah, I know a lot of people do get NDIS funding. When we started the swim school, there wasn't NDIS, so we really only had the people that could afford the classes. But I just encourage parents to start their children with their private classes, and like we're so much cheaper than any other therapy that they may need. Like our private classes are $55 a class, which is only double what a group class is. So,
and you mentioned NDIS. Is it possible to get it under NDIS? I feel like it's not it's not as easy as just putting it in a plan.
Correct. A lot of people tend to not agree that swimming lessons should be funded because all children require swimming lessons. But
it should.
Most of our children don't do well in a mainstream. Some people have got funding where the gap is covered between a group and a private class, which I think is fabulous, because if you've got a 5-year-old, you would have taken them to swimming lessons anyway, but now you have to fork double. So it's nice to have that bridge gap. Other people have got funding under hydrotherapy, because I believe in hydrotherapy. Kids are moving in the water. It's very good for their bodies to be moving in the water and using all of their muscles. And as a byproduct, we're teaching them to swim. So some people get it that way. We can. You spoke briefly about us involving other therapists. So
I did. So would you be invested in contacting, say, the client's occupational therapist or physio, so their goals can intertwine with the environment of the pool, for example?
Absolutely. And then there's options to have them consult. So like my daughter, for example, has consulted on a swimmer's program. So she's seen their occupational therapy needs, and of course she's very good at teaching swimming as well. So she's able to collaborate
intertwine
with
the two.
On, these are the things that this child needs to work on, and this is how you can help that child in the water. So we can definitely collaborate.
For other businesses, so I'm just thinking of those the mainstream businesses that find it really hard to cater for special needs kids because of, I believe, the additional training that their staff need, the time that it takes, as well as the overheads their business will need from a financial cost. I can imagine why they deter away from it, because they don't have enough business sake of things. Would it be in their best interest to consider investing a collaborative or network with other allied health members, such as a physio or OT, to support that NDIS element?
Yeah, maybe. I haven't found that to be a simple process.
Yeah, I thought so.
NDIS is very, very challenging to
It
get.
is.
For a while, it was great and swimming lessons were covered, and now we're finding that some people have to withdraw from the program because their funding has been cut.
It's cut, yeah.
So I think it's just a matter of prioritising what needs to be done and how much needs to be done. So I would encourage families, as we touched on before, do half a year, like do swimming lessons in summer, for example, and then don't do it in winter, and it will cost you the same amount as if you went all through in a group class. And a lot of our kids, you know, we do have teachers that are trained with special needs that are taking group classes. A lot of our kids can do very well in a group setting when they've been introduced and they're familiar and confident with their surroundings and what's expected of them in a class. So, you know, in a group class, we can't have them running and jumping. We can't have them jumping out, you know. But the way our classes are structured, everything that we have learnt from teaching children with additional needs is it also benefits our mainstream learners. So, for example, you know, a lot of swim schools have a, you know, you need to take your turn approach. So 4 little kids are sitting on the side and they get to do one at a time. Well, that's not going to work with a child with ADHD. They don't want to wait and watch 3 other kids do it. So we try and in our group classes is have all of the children going over a short distance in water they can stand in if they need to. So 4 of them may, you know, kick across the pool and they might do it 4 times and the teacher will correct each child each lap.
I get you.
So that way they're getting 4 times as much done, they're getting the same amount of correction, but Johnny with ADHD is not having to sit on the side, who then jumps on Joe, who then cries, and then Joe's parent complains, and then Johnny doesn't want to come anymore and his mum's too embarrassed to bring him. So we're kind of trying to avoid that scenario by keeping them busy and keeping them all learning, and it makes the children happy and the parents are happy that their children are swimming for the majority of the lesson and not sitting around. So if we get the children familiar, then they can mainstream into a class, into a structure that will work for them. And we may lessen the number of children in that class to start with. So we might encourage Johnny to join a class later in the day where there's only 2 kids in it because, you know, it's not that popular at 7 o'clock. And then once he might then come at 5 o'clock with 4 kids and he can cope with that because he's got the skills to swim independently and he can have a go without the teacher holding him or waiting with him. So, I think back to costs, it can be reduced by just...
But you've explained it in a way where it's more, yes, there's a higher rate, but you'd rather utilize the funds in a seasonal moment like summer because you're likely to then teach your child the skills they learn in that period when they go to the pool, the local pool, or play in their pool, whereas winter, not that it's wasted money, but you're less likely to use the skill set and you'd rather save that money for a more primal time.
Or, you know, if your child is having 1 lesson a week, watch that lesson and then take them to the pool and let them have a play and practice. Don't make them do it. Like, it should be fun. Swimming with the parents should be fun, but go and say, hey, what did you learn? Do you want to show me this? Did you kick with a board today? Here's a board. Do you want to show me how you did that? If they say no, fine, and they just play, they're still, you know, getting those motor skills and the strength and building on those things. But I think there's a lot that can be done to keep the costs down and, you know, accelerate the learning.
Support the skill. Yeah, absolutely. What advice could you give parents that are very concerned with starting their child's swimming lessons? What could you tell them, not only from a swimming teacher perspective, but as a mother with a child with special needs?
So again, like, it really depends on their special needs. If they're timid and scared, practice at home. So I'll often give the parents homework. So, you know, if their child doesn't want to wear goggles, but it's stopping their learning, they don't want to put their face in, I might practice at home in a bowl of water, practice in the bath, go with your child to the beach, to the pool, and just familiarise themselves with that. If it's a child that's like gung-ho and just wants to go, start, you know, take them to the pool and teach them, wait for mummy. Okay, wait on the side till mummy's ready. So just preparing them and teaching them those skills And like we spoke at the start, when they do embark on those lessons, make it really positive and don't put the pressure that they have. Like as a parent, you have the pressure that this is costing you time, money, possibly humiliation. So prepare it as best you can to get the best possible result. If you need a social story, have that prepared, or ask us to send you the pictures to make up your social story of what's going to work for you. So I think with everything, I found that really helped with my child, with everything that they had to go through. And on his report, it said he's doing very well thanks to the preparation his mother does prior to any new event. But it's just, they can help so much by getting those things right, and then talking to the teacher. Don't sit there and be stressed that they're not doing things you've seen them do in the bath or at some other place. Let the teacher know, he can do A, B, and C with like D, E, and F now. Or he's terrified of the deep end. So we're not going to do that at the start. We'll work up to it. So, I guess it's that prepare the child and communicate with where you're going. And I think that applies to everything. It applies to my son at school or excursions, or when there's something different happening. It's preparing them so they don't freak out. And, just trying to make it positive. And I think I said earlier, it's like if you're an adult and you have to go to a party where you don't know anyone, and then they give you a drink that you don't know what it is and you don't know if you want to drink it, and then you might have to eat something weird and you don't know what that is, and you feel really uncomfortable and you would rather not be there. That's what it's like for a child when you take them to a new swim centre. They've never been at that swim centre. They haven't met that teacher. Who are those 5 children making a noise in the class? Why is one jumping in? I don't understand what's going on. I don't know what's expected of me. I remember my child getting told off at school swimming for going underwater. You're not allowed to go underwater when the teacher's talking. But the teacher told him that rule while he was underwater, and then he got in trouble. So it's just a matter of getting all of those things lined up and right so that it's positive for
and
the
you're
child.
preparing for the child. Yeah.
And
Natalie,
if they don't like it straight away, that's okay. Like give them time to get used to the new experience.
And I guess there's no time essence on it. It's about enjoying the experience and having no expectations, is what you also mentioned. Really reducing your own parental expectations and the expectations of your child, because it's an unfamiliar environment. We don't know how your child will react. And to learn a new skill, you need to have joy with it and a positive experience too.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's spot on. So well said. Yeah, it needs to be really positive. Yeah, we had one mum really early on, before we were taking, special needs children, put the child next to me and said, "Don't get in, don't go under, you might drown." I'm like, oh my goodness, I've got to teach this kid to swim now. This kid's terrified. This was way at the start. And I'm like, it's just got to be a positive experience. And I'm very happy for the parents to say what they would like and what they'd expect. And we'll write those goals in. We'll have short-term goals and long-term goals and work towards that. And I'm very happy to give them feedback. Like on our Swim for All portal, we have progress reports, and we have like hundreds of skills for our All Abilities program, and they're ticked off regularly what they can do. So for blowing bubbles, there's like 20 things to tick off, because a lot of our autistic kids can't get that feeling, and like that would be a speech pathology area that I'm sure you would get. But they can't get that because they don't do that. So it's not a sit, stand, kick, move your arms, move your legs. We get those things, but we don't always understand how to blow out. So they'll be, blowing a ping pong ball, blowing on a hand before there's bubbles, or blowing
the bubbles in the water.
Yeah, because they're not getting that skill. But so it's just working through the steps, and then the parents can see, they're like, oh, why isn't my child blowing bubbles? Oh, well, they're actually doing this and this and this, and you can practice this and this,
which will lead up to
give them a recorder, give them a bubble blower, and see if you can just use the word bubble, bubble, bubble each time, so they get that understanding. While we don't want the parents to just give us the child and not progress for a long time. We're very happy with their feedback. Like, we've had one child, we have one Down syndrome boy, super, super stubborn. And he would come up with all these scenarios like, I won't get in unless that mum gets in with me. Some like very nice looking mum is sitting on the side, and she's like, oh, I'm happy to get in. So she would get in with it. Oh, I'm not doing it unless this happens. And oh, I'm too scared.
Conditions.
I'm too scared to swim all that way. And we'd be like, okay, we'll go halfway. And we would prepare all these things to make it work for this little boy. And then this carer came 10, 12 weeks into the program, and we're setting up plans. We've got all these, we've got the mum in the water, we've got the board, we've got something showing only halfway, done all these things to help him learn to swim. And this carer came in and said, oh, at the last place he did laps. And I'm like, what? He did what? Yes, he can do laps. And she got down, she said, right, swim to the end. And he'd go, oh, only with a board. Right, fine, here's the board, swim to the end. And he did it. And I'm like, oh my goodness. He so had us worked out. So that was where it was important that we didn't get that information from the parent, because he came with a different carer each week. We didn't get that information of what the starting point was. So this was obviously very early in the process.
He knew how to take you on.
Yeah, I was cheeky little one. And I'm like, what can your child do and what have they done before, so we can build on that. And they might not do it in the first or second session while they're getting used to it, but at least, we don't spend 12 weeks not getting any a manipulative little boy. Yeah, so Natalie, there's been lots of learnings along the way.
I bet. And I'm loving how this conversation is just filled with real examples and stories, which is such a credit to you and your team, that you are creating all this joy and success with children that may have not experienced this before. And what a wonderful model that you have put on Wine with Wita this week to show and demonstrate other businesses that they can create inclusive swimming classes for children with special needs too.
Sorry, I missed a bit of that.
I said it's great that you've been able to provide real stories, so other swim school centres can see that we can create inclusive swimming classes in our mainstream classes too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's just I guess getting it right. And I think what we've done right at Swim for All is concentrating on getting to know the individual. And I think that is key. So once we know the individual, we can help them reach their swimming potential. So know a little bit about them. What have they done before? But what interests them? Like, what do they like?
Absolutely.
What do they like to do? And can we incorporate that into the session? Like, if a child is really worried or doesn't want to move through the water, can we get the parent to bring in a toy that they like, and then we can put it on the board and get them to chase that. Or we have that little boy that swam that race. When he started with us, the only thing he wanted to do was pick the rings up off the bottom. And I remember his dad being frustrated that we did that too much, and he was paying for us to teach the child to swim. But he came around, but we would throw the ring in and he'd go get that a metre away. But then we'd 2 metres away. And then you could get one and then, years down the track, he would still, I have a photo with him holding up, 10 rings. He would got them at the end. So, after half an hour of good swimming, he got to get his rings off the bottom. But it was just, working out what is it that motivates that child. Because a lot of our kids on the spectrum, they're not doing it to please you. Your regular mainstream little kids will do something
they're doing it to please you.
To do. Yeah. And my learning from my son is, well, why do I need to do that? Why am I to the end? I don't need to swim to the end. I'm just going to come back. What a stupid idea that is. Why do I need to do that? So it's then explaining, well, we're doing this for this reason. Or, that older boy wanted to go on a boat. Well, you're learning because you want to go on a boat. If that boat turns over, which could happen, you need to be able to swim to safety. Getting to know them and validating why they're doing the activity.
Yeah. Natalie, this has been such a wonderful discussion where we have really celebrated neurodiversity from all avenues, not only from autism, but most importantly, this discussion is spotlight on you as the woman, the remarkable angel behind Swim for All. And without a doubt, your message here on Wine with Wita will be celebrated and be heard across all swimming centres and especially on Levelling on the Deck. And hopefully, most importantly, be used as a foundation and inspiration to support other centres to do the magic that you have created for all children. So thank you for being a guest on Wine with Wita.
Thank you, Rita. It's been a pleasure.
And one thing I like to ask all my guests, Natalie, if you were a better version of yourself tomorrow, what word would you apply to yourself today?
Can I have more time?
As in, you want to give me an answer, more time, or is that your word, more time?
More time.
You want more time?
There's not enough time to do everything.
Okay, that's okay.
So, yeah, more time.
More time.
No,
That's right.
more time.
I think we need more time for everything. We need more time for everything. So thank you, Natalie, again for coming on Wine with Wita, and for everybody else. Another episode on this amazing series with Levelling on the Deck will be released next week. Take care, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another episode of Wine with Wita. I hope you found some new inspiration, learnt something new, or gained a fresh perspective. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd be so grateful if you please leave a 5-star review, as it really helps the show get in the ears of new listeners, plus it takes 5 seconds. If you're keen for more strategies and insights, then head over to Instagram and follow RS Speech Pathology.